plan your strategy. And the strategy, I really focus on funding strategies because you have to accept that there is a chance that your submission won't be funded, and you have to plan ahead. I really encourage our faculty here at the MBL that they make 5-year plans for their research proposals. And right now, I recommend submitting 3 proposals a year. I work with our faculty here to show how you can do that because of the range of opportunities, the different types of opportunities, and you're not submitting the same proposal, the same idea, scientific idea for every single one of your submissions. But it's very important to have a big picture view of what you're doing. For example, if you're writing an instrumentation grant, yeah, you will need to be working with your users. And so therefore we need to talk about the team that you're going to be working with. To get to your team, you need to start really early. I recommend for an instrumentation grant, which is of high magnitude and very specific, that you start 8 to 12 months in advance. If you're writing for your own research effort, usually 4 months in advance is fine. But the work that goes into and acquiring the information needed to work with your team really takes a fair amount of time. So that's number one when you're planning your strategy. You look at your year and you start really early doing the planning that I just described. And the next step, you start reading. You read the announcement. I am very aware of the size of these announcements, these funding announcements from both NSF and NIH are, 20 pages long. But it's very important to read everything because you are writing to what they are asking for. And even though it may say it's an instrumentation opportunity, there's some very specific requests. And so reading the announcement is really important. And what you will learn in all of the instrumentation announcements is the importance of identifying a team that you're going to be working with. So I am very now specifically talking about instrumentation grants. You've got to identify and communicate with your team. And I can guarantee that the best proposals are the ones that have a good coordination among all of the team players. So I'm going to tell you about who they are because you might think they're just the scientists, but they're not. They're all different elements are important. So the first team, of course, are the major users and collaborators, the imaging scientists. So all of the instrumentation opportunities require a major user group that will be significant. NIH requires at least 3 and up to 6 major NIH users, and NSF doesn't require that they be NSF funded, but they do require major users. So these are the scientists who are going to help you with the proposal. Microscope vendors for instrumentation grants are critical. You need to get quotes and you need to demo scopes. So what you're going to be doing is proving and showing the reviewers that you have selected the right scope, the right microscope for your needs. And it really helps to have done a demonstration, worked with the vendors, and it takes some time to do this. You may need to travel somewhere to do it. Having images from the scope that you are most interested in will help you because you need to be able to justify the choices that you're making and explain why you need this microscope. Next team is your institution, research office. I'm the director of research at the MBL, so I work very directly with those who are submitting these big instrument grants. And the administrators who are going to help you, the sponsored programs office who will actually do the submission. They need to know well in advance because these proposals and the applications have a lot of materials needed, a lot of documentation. You don't need to submit all the documentations. You can get help from your research office usually. Reviewers are critical. These are the people who are not reviewing it at the agency, but that will be helping you review your work and help you edit and evaluate it and give you kind of a pre-evaluation before you submit the proposal. This is one reason why you need to take time and contact all these people ahead of time so that they can They can get it in their calendars to help you when the time comes, give them a couple of weeks to read and review your proposal. Finally, the federal agency is a major collaborator, a major member of the team. As a program director at NSF, I worked with people directly, not on their proposals. The proposal is completely up to the PI, but on interpreting the solicitation or the announcement, on letting them know if they were on the right track for what we were asking for in the announcement, and most importantly, it's really important to speak to your program director, to call them. Remember, I am not speaking for NSF. I'm not at NSF anymore. I'm not a federal agent anymore. So what I'm telling you is just advice from the outside. They know what's going on right now inside, and I really recommend that you make use of them as part of your team. And then finally, a very important note is you need to find out if your institution has an internal competition for the solicitation or the announcement that you're responding to, because many institutions do. MBL happens to be small, and so we submit usually one of these proposals per opportunity. But other institutions may have a pre-evaluation and then have a mechanism to select who can submit. So there's no reason to go through a lot of the effort if your institution has not already stepped up and shown that they want to contribute fully to your proposal. So this is what it looks like. This is kind of an 8-month process. You spend 4 months or so pre-work, prep, thinking, working with your users. When the users are contributing to the proposal, they're going to be filling out a specific usage document that you will include in the proposal. It's really important to have their images that show why they need the microscope, their scope of work. You don't want to have each of the users provide a mini proposal that they've submitted elsewhere. It needs to be something that the PI is overseeing and directing. So this is really the most important step here, is planning this strategy. So let me just kind of summarize a few tips rather than go through a lot of details. And mostly I've covered all of this. So you're matching your idea to the agency, the institute, and the program, the mission of those. You're reading the solicitation, the announcement. You're contacting the program director and presenting to them your idea. And it's really important to have questions. Once you've read all the materials in one of these announcements, you will most certainly have questions. If you don't have questions, go back and read it, because there's certainly going to be questions. And you bring those to the program director so that you have the best kind of guidance for what to do. It's very important to justify the instrument. It's more than just, well, we've got a big facility, we need to add to it. There's reason why you need this particular instrument, and that reason is related to the users. So you need to choose that user group very carefully and strategically. This group, as the PI, you may, for NSF, you may have a co-PI. NIH requires for these that you just be the sole PI, but you and the PI or your group should be working through how what they're doing fits into the overall structure of your need. And then you need to demonstrate strong institutional support and commitment. And most importantly, and I won't go into too much more detail about this, there's some very detailed grantsmanship notes that you can find and discuss with others. But this submission needs to be clear, well-written, and be a roadmap for the reviewer. Remember that reviewers are reading many, many of these proposals. And if they have to struggle and understand where the parts fit together, sometimes this is simply related to the way you structure the proposal. Most of the instrumentation announcements have very detailed instructions for headings to use, but it's within those headings that you need a roadmap. And I can talk more about that in the Q&A or maybe a little later.